Welcome. My name is Jennifer Christensen, and I will be discussing the digital divide, the battle of information haves versus information have-nots. What exactly is the digital divide? The digital age has encouraged the rapid development and proliferation of information and communication technologies, or ICT, which have created incredible opportunities for much of the population. However, the complexity and cost of these technologies have become prohibitive for many, creating what is called the digital divide, effectively separating the information haves from the information have-nots. The digital divide may be formally defined as inequalities in access to the internet, extent of use, knowledge of search strategies, quality of technical connections and social support, ability to evaluate the quality of information, and diversity of uses. Of the various factors contributing to the digital divide, digital literacy is critical. Digital literacy, a subset of information literacy, is a measure of an individual's cognitive and technical skills needed to engage with ICT to locate, evaluate, create, and communicate information. In addition to the skill sets needed to engage with ICT, there are significant differences in broadband adoption and internet use along racial and ethnic groups, urban and rural residents, the elderly, the disabled, and individuals of low socioeconomic status and education levels. There is sufficient evidence to suggest that higher levels of education correlates to increased ICT use and access. Lower income Americans experience diminished access in several ways, whether it's unavailable or unreliable ICT infrastructure, prohibitive recurring costs associated with ICT, as well as the initial costs of hardware and software. A disconcerting aspect of the income divide is what has been referred to as the homework gap, the gap between school-age children with broadband at home and those who do not. Approximately 35% of lower-income households with school-age children do not have home broadband access. Systematic racial inequities also widen the divide, with the most pronounced racial disparity among the poorest of our population. To illustrate, among those with annual family incomes below $20,000, 58% of these low-income whites have home internet access, versus just 51% of Hispanics and 50% of Black people in the same income bracket. Geographic isolation presents significant challenges for rural residents and businesses, making ICT a viable option for diminishing the disadvantages associated with rural living. However, the Federal Communications Commission reported that rural areas have considerably fewer options for broadband service than urban and suburban areas, preventing rural Americans from buying high-speed internet and fully engaging with ICT. It is estimated that 60% of the global population is offline and not actively participating in the digital information environment. 78% of users in the developed world, on the other hand, are online, clearly indicating that ICT has not evolved at the same rate in developing countries. Examining the global digital divide is necessary because for those countries who comfortably reside on the right side of the divide, the haves, it potentially affords a country opportunities for improving productivity and efficiency, and more generally for raising the overall well-being of its members. The rapidly expanding mobile technology market is an intriguing option for providing an added point of ICT access for underprivileged users. Some speculate that mobile devices can have a leapfrogging effect for providing cheaper and more accessible resources to those who are not able to access more costly computers with broadband access. However, there is potential for an ancillary divide to develop between smartphone users and non-smartphone users, with more digitally literate smartphone users enjoying an advanced and more relevant information-seeking experience than those who have more difficulty using ICT. The burden of bridging the digital divide does not fall on any one single entity. Instead, due to its multifaceted nature, it requires collaborative efforts between public and private sectors and nonprofit organizations. In fact, there is convincing evidence that countries which introduced effectively regulated private competition in information infrastructure provision see improved efficiency, lower prices, and wider access. As society becomes further entrenched in the digital ecosystem, equitable access to ICT resources becomes an absolute necessity, as being negatively disadvantaged through a lack of accessibility to valuable electronic information and education will continue to further the gap between the haves and the have-nots. Failing to specifically address the socioeconomic impact surrounding rapid technological change and a dynamic information environment ignores the varied and complex nature of the digital divide. There is a pressing need for every member in society to have access to affordable and reliable information and communication technologies as not only a practical necessity, but as a prerequisite for active participation in the digital economy. Thank you very much.